Welcome to Just Energy Radio with your host, naturopath and medical intuitive, Dr. Rita Louise. We have learned from Einstein's theory that matter and energy are one. Physicists believe that all systems in nature have their own particular way of vibrating. From the swinging of a pendulum to the waves of the ocean to the light that brightens the sky each day, each of these oscillates at its own unique rate. The same holds true for every thought, feeling, event, or word we speak. Each has its own frequency or rate of vibration. What many of us don't realize is when we take everything in our universe down to its simplest form, it is all just energy. Join Dr. Rita Louise on a journey through time and space where past, present, and future collide. Today, what you believe may be called into question. What we want to know is, who made up the rules? Be brave and step outside the box. We are about to turn our world upside down and venture into the unknown. Hold on. We are departing our own beliefs and entering alternative realms. Enjoy the possibilities.
Well, happy Halloween and welcome to Just Energy Radio. I'm your host, Dr. Rita Louise, and thank you all for tuning into the show today. What a better day to have a live radio show than Halloween. Now, I have all the lights turned off in my house except for in my office because I don't want those trick-or-treaters coming to the door and just having like it be crazy here. Not that it's not normally crazy here, but we are going to have a great show. In addition to having me on the show, we are going to be having Christopher George and Victor Fuhrman, both ghost hunters. They also have a radio show, Second Sight NYC, that airs at the same time. And so we are actually simulcasting with them and doing one giant haunted, spooky spectacular tonight. It is going to be a lot of fun. Something we don't ordinarily do. We are opening up the phone lines tonight. And if you want to call in, not for a reading. So if you call for a reading, I'm going to say, okay, thank you, and hang up. But if you have a spooky ghost story, and it's got to be like really good and juicy, that you want to call and share, we would love to hear from you. But don't forget, Just Energy Radio is brought to you by soulhealer.com and the Institute of Applied Energetics. That's www.appliedenergeticsinstitute.com. And you can listen to us live every Thursday night, and that means listen to me live every Thursday night here on the Inception Radio Network. But if you do miss an episode, you can check out our archives at the Just Energy Radio webpage. That's www.justenergyradio.com. Or you can check us out on YouTube on the Just Energy Radio YouTube channel. But if you go to the YouTube channel, please subscribe. We have over 2,000 subscribers to that channel, and we would love to have your numbers join us and have us be bigger and better every day. Or if you go to the webpage, sign up for our weekly newsletter to keep you informed of all the excellent programming that we have coming up here. One other thing, if you haven't downloaded the Inception Radio Network app for your smartphone, either a Apple, an iPhone, or your Android phone, you can do that in the Play Store or the Apple Store, wherever you get that free software stuff, because it's free, and we love free. And it's Halloween, so treat for you. Anyway, a couple of announcements I want to make. This Saturday, if you're in the Texas, Arkansas, Louisiana, Oklahoma area, do come to Jefferson, Texas for the History, Haunts, and Legends Conference in spooky Jefferson, Texas. I'll be there. A number of people who have been on Just Energy Radio will also be at the show. At the conference speaking, there are ghost hunts all night long and conference presentations all day. It's a lot of fun. It's this Saturday. For more information, go to historicjeffersonghostwalks.com. And then in the following weekend, it's the Marshall Paranormal Conference in Marshall, Texas. You can get information on that online about that. But the big announcement, because if you've been listening to the show, you know that I haven't had information or all the information, but I was smart today. I wrote it down, and I can actually talk about this. So on March 22nd through 30th, please join myself, Stephen Knapp, Sasha and Janet Lesson for the Ancient Mysteries conference. It's AM14. It is being held in Angkor Wat. If you watch like Ancient Aliens or any of those shows, it's that temple site that has those giant faces carved into the sides of the building, kind of eerie and spooky, but then very mystical at the same time. It's going to be a lot of fun. I mean, one of the things that we're going to be doing, that I'm going to be doing with the group, is we're going to be doing some remote viewing on the site. So it should be very exciting. They are offering a discount package through November 25th. Take $300 off the all-inclusive price. Doesn't include airfare. But it's going to be great. I mean, it's going to be so much fun. We're going to a number of different sites in that area, including Angkor Wat, which I heard takes days to get through. It is kind of like a Ancient Mysteries Disneyland. So please do check it out. The website is ancientmysteriesInternational.com, ancientmysteriesInternational.com. There is a flyer that links to the website on the Just Energy Radio webpage or on my webpage, soulhealer.com. Okay. So let me tell you a little bit about our guests. And okay, well, let me tell you what's going on. And so we're airing actually on two different networks. I'm airing here. They're airing on their network. And so we're having, I don't want to say logistic issues, but the timing of the show is going to be a little bit different. And so they're doing their intro to their people. I'm doing my intro to you. And then we're going to connect. When we go to a commercial break at the top of the hour, it's going to be a little bit longer break because they take an extended break. And so if you're wondering, hey, are we coming back on air? Yes, we are. We're just sticking with their format because, you know, we're nice people. Also, I want to give you a little heads up. One of my experiences doing this show is whenever I have people come on and talk about ghosts, we always have weird electronic things happen and lines disconnect, and it just gets weird. Well, not only are we talking about ghosts, and there are 3 ghost hunters all in one room talking about ghosts together, it's Halloween. It's Spook Day International. So, you know, if things just start going haywire and computers start blowing up and yours blows up and you disconnect, just blame the ghostesses because it's all their fault. You can blame them tonight. So anyway, so let me tell you a little bit. Oh, are they here? Okay, so we have 2 guests, Christopher George and Victor Fuhrman. So Christopher George is like the guy next door, provided that guy is a gifted psychic medium, healer, exorcist, paranormal investigator, mystical teacher, and radio and television celebrity. Approachable, friendly, with a heart of gold, Chris is really the everyman psychic. He cares about people and wants to help them on their life path while dispelling fears and shedding light on spirits and the afterlife. His website is ChristopherGeorgeSecondSight.com. Victor the Voice Fuhrman, or Reverend Victor Fuhrman, is an interfaith minister, spiritual channel, and author and paranormal investigator who is currently on 2 investigation teams in New York. He is an expert contributor to BeliefNet.com, the world's largest spirituality site. As a minister, he has served as a healer and spiritual counselor to the sick and dying and has helped many people make the transition through the death experience over the past 20 years. He also specializes in sending earthbound spirits, like entities, into the light. He is the co-host with renowned psychic medium Christopher George of Second Sight New York Radio. And are they here now? I hope you all are having a good Halloween, and I'm really glad that you decided to tune into the show. I don't know about you, but I actually have not eaten any candy today, and I think I need to go downstairs and find some after the show and munch on a few because, you know, it's just not Halloween without it. But all of my kids are grown, and so I just have, you know, it's just me and the babies here hanging out, and they don't eat candy. I mean, they're not supposed to eat candy, but they do because they're just that way. Anyway, I don't know where they are. They're somewhere. But if you haven't checked out that Ancient Mysteries International site, please do check that out. It is going to be so much fun. It's plenty of time, March 20th through the 30th. And so you'll have a lot of time between now and then to go check out what's going on, save up your money and then call or then come. Well, I think they're working out the logistics now of getting everybody on the show all at the same time so that we're not just speaking to the dead. I mean, you know, the missing host through the ethers. Chris?
Yes.
Hi, Christopher.
How are you?
I'm great. So are we going to get Victor in here soon?
I hope so. I know we just got disconnected, so I'm hoping he's going to be connected here any minute. So we started. I see Victor is being called now. Yeah, so we started the show. We announced the great Dr. Rita Louise. We said how much we loved you the last time you were on the show, and that we're looking forward to this show. So
well, and I just told everybody, your guys' information, did your little intro thing, and I gave them the pat warning of, you talk about ghosts on air, and then your computer blows up and the lights go off and all kinds of weird stuff happens. And so if their computer shuts down or they lose their stream or, we get disconnected, it's just part of the experience. And it's Halloween. So what a better experience can that be?
That's what I'm talking about.
Guys, I lost my stream, but now I'm taking a medication. My stream is as good as ever. So
TMI, Victor. TMI.
Hi, Rita. How are you?
I'm echoing in my own head.
Woo-hoo. Now we have echoes going on. But Rita, before we got disconnected, Victor was telling us his first memory of Halloween for him, and then we had gotten disconnected. So if you don't mind, I would love to hear his story.
Sure.
My first memory of Halloween, I have a lot of memories of Halloween. My first poignant memory of Halloween, I was 11 years old, and I got beaten up by some bigger kids who wanted to take my candy, and that was some memory of Halloween. But
that's a bad memory.
But I also remember the good memories of Halloween were the fact that when we did put costumes on, we could take on new personas. And I always loved to act when I was a kid and play different characters. So for me, Halloween was about getting into costume and becoming someone other than who I was. And it actually helped me to grow in the long run.
Well, you tell that story, and I remember when I was like 8 or maybe 9, I don't know, young, and I lived in New York City, and we lived in the projects on the 14th floor. And, you just go to your neighbor's house with your garbage bag getting candy. And my brother and I decided to be bold and go to the building next door because there was another 14 floors worth of doors you could go hit. And I got mugged. They stole my candy.
Are you kidding me?
I swear to God, they did.
Well, see, for me, it really wasn't so much about dressing up. Where I grew up in Staten Island, when I moved to Staten Island from Brooklyn, and in Brooklyn, everyone loved to go trick-or-treating. In Staten Island, it was a little bit different when I was younger. Most of the kids maybe went house to house for, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 blocks, and then that was it. And then it was time to get the eggs, and it was time to get the shaving cream, and it was an all-out war in the schoolyard. And that's my big memory of Halloween. It was all about coming home filled with shaving cream and, catching a beating from your parents for being so dirty.
But, hey, Christopher, Victor, where did you grow up?
I grew up in Brooklyn.
Okay, so then we're all kind of talking the same thing. So when you guys were growing up, did you go out in the afternoon? I remember coming home from school and it was still light, and that's when you went trick-or-treating. And then my family moved upstate, and I'm like, got home from school, got my costume on, ran outside, and they're like, it's not dark yet. You don't come out till like 6 o'clock. And I'm like, really?
Yeah,
it's dark.
As soon as we got home, we were out the door. If we had a costume, we put it on, we were out immediately. We didn't wait till it got dark. A lot of the kids, well, even now, they're still trick-or-treating. It's dark over here now, and they're still ringing the bell upstairs, so and it'll probably go on till about 9 o'clock, and then we'll shut the light. But it starts early over here.
Now, one of my memories of trick-or-treating in those days was that in the school there'd be a competition because we would raise money for UNICEF, the United Nations International Children's Emergency Fund. And Dr. Rita's laughing because she remembers this too. And we used to go around and people would give us pennies and nickels and dimes and quarters. And then the next day we'd take it to school, and whichever class had the most money for UNICEF was given a pizza party. Did you guys do the same thing?
We did.
Okay, so I think the statute of limitation has passed on this right now.
I know where this is going.
But I don't remember really turning the money in.
Okay.
Yeah, well, you know what? I have to confess, I don't think I've ever turned the money in either. So I think that, listen, I was so bad when I was a kid that I had to go to school to church every Sunday, and I went to Catholic school, so we had these little dated envelopes that we had to put money in, and my parents would put money in there every Sunday, and I'd go to church, and I got to tell you, I never turned it in. And at the end of the year, then when it was time to make communion or confirmation, they said, okay, well, we're going to add up everything you gave, and I don't remember exactly what it was about, but they added up, and when they added up mine, it came up to 0. And and you want to talk about catching a beating? I caught a beating for that one. This is true.
I went to Catholic school. I remember those little envelopes. I didn't know they counted it. I thought they were anonymous.
Well, so did I, but obviously they did, and I caught a beating. I caught a lot of beatings growing up, I'll tell you. But I want to share one story with you guys. When I say when we talk about the biggest memory, and I want to bring us into the paranormal a little bit. I guess it was, I had the television show. I've done the radio for 3 years. So it was a year before that. About 4 years ago, 5 years ago, I had a television show here in New York called Second Sight. And I had it for 2 years. And what I would do is every Halloween is I would do a live seance on television. And, that had never been done here before. It's always Hollywood version and, made up crap and whatever. And then I went on television, I did a real seance, and this is one of my proudest moments, actually, that I'm going to share with you guys. There was a family who, here in Staten Island, there was a big case where a jeweler had gotten robbed. He got shot. He was a father of 2, and he was killed. He was murdered. They had no leads or anything like that, and the woman who was my co-host on my television show was friends with these people, and she, we planned to do the Halloween seance, and what happened was, I actually now not knowing who they were when they got there. I had no idea who they were. There was always an audience. I didn't know. I would bring people, she would bring people, and other people would just show up, and I had no idea who these people were. And during the seance, I actually channeled her son, and he actually said who shot him, what it was about, and gave a whole bunch of details. And after the show was over, I actually got to meet the parents, and they were like, you know what, that just, it doesn't sound like it's possible for it to happen that way. The people you're talking about were actually friends of his. And I'm like, well, if they're friends of his and you're acknowledging the fact that I'm giving names of his friends, then there might be something to this. And they were like, you know what, we just don't want to believe that. Well, about 3 or 4 days later, on the front page of the Daily News, everything that I had said was in the news. And I kind of got credit for helping send cops in the right direction and whatnot. And the people who actually murdered her, this gentleman, they're doing, I don't know how many years in jail, but they all got caught. But everything I had said in that seance actually was in the Daily News a few days later. So that's one of my proudest moments ever. And it happened on Halloween night about 4 years ago. That was pretty cool.
Cool story. Very cool.
Hey, I was just told that we have a caller already. So
Okay.
I gave them, the heads up. Don't be calling for a reading because we're just going to hang up on you because we're all New Yorkers and that's what we do. And
right.
but if they want to call and share a spooky ghost story or a Halloween story, that they're more than welcome. So hello, caller, how are you? Happy Halloween.
Hello.
Oh, hello, caller. What's your name?
Hello, my name's Charles.
Hi, Charles. So do you have a spooky ghost story or a Halloween tale to tell?
Well, I have a situation about my house. I had some people that are paranormal investigators come, and they had their meters and everything, and they went to my basement. And when they got to to the basement. He didn't go over 5 or 6 steps in and said, we're going to do something here. He put a flashlight down, a Brinkman, and they have a lock on them. He just unlocked it and didn't twist to change the brightness and dimness. It was completely off. Set it down on the ledge, and we started asking, and then I told him, I said, there had been about 6 people die in the house, and then we started through the names, and then hit my grandfather's name, and the light came on. The flashlight came on, and then the meters maxed out. They would go all the way to electromagnetic field readers would.
Let me ask you something. You said your name is Charles, right?
Yes.
When this was happening, what were you feeling in the basement? Because in my experience, a lot of times when the paranormal activity starts becoming so prominent, like you're saying, there's a noticeable change in the energy in the room. Did you feel anything? What was going on with you guys?
Well, the one thing that I felt just a complete sense of relief, because we knew somebody was down there, or something was down there, and the potential was it was really a bad person that my father had pulled out of their car after a bomb went off in their car, and he was one of the bad men in town, and my father was building a house close by and pulled him out, and I thought maybe that ghost jumped on him, that spirit or soul, and came to the house and lived here. But when I found out it was my grandfather and realized he was just a wonderful person, but there was a reason. He had been watching out for me. Evidently, I've got a real bad genetic disorder, and probably they're getting ready to test me now for hemophilia, that on top of this other bone marrow disorder, but I've managed to live with there's just 8 people with one of the disorders I have. It's a porphyria, the vampire disorder. I actually have it. I've got the documented lab reports to where the sunlight almost kills me and all this other stuff. But I think my grandfather had been there watching over me. And there's something in the house that he hid, because he died in this house. I think he hid something in the house, or there's something that he wants me to have. And it was like a wall was taken down. This was 2 weeks ago. It was on a full moon, and I thought with Halloween coming up and everything like this is really a ghost story. But we were asking questions, and he got mad at them and wouldn't answer any questions for them. But he would dim the light, he'd make it go up and down, and he'd flicker it. And then I came back after they said he asked us to leave. Well, I went in there and I said, "You want to talk to me?" And the light just popped right on. And he would answer him that way, and he did 1 or 2 Morse code things. One of the people could read Morse code, and he said, he's spelling out a word. But yeah, the energy level changed. It got real, that quietness you get into a real consecrated church, where it's really, there was a sacred quality. It didn't have a guttural or a back alley quality or a freak show thing. It was so sacred and pure. It was wonderful.
Well, Charles, Charles, this is Victor speaking. The fact that you have your grandfather's spirit there with you, and the fact that he is looking out for you, is a wonderful opportunity for you to start having some exchanges with him. You don't have to have anyone else there to do it. You can simply sit and ask questions. And I think my sense is in your mind, you'll be able to hear the answers. So try it. Give that a try. Just sit quietly, formulate some questions, and if there is something that he wants to show you or help you find, I have a feeling he'll guide you to it.
Now, one thing, you don't do readings, but I had an event happen last night in my sleep. I had horrible dreams, and it was about being trapped in buildings that were getting ready to be blown up and all this other stuff. And I had black eyes when I woke up this morning. But I've done that before. That's the thing, that if I potentially start bleeding, I can bleed in my tissue, my joints, and stuff like that. And so now they're thinking, well, it might be hemophilia. Whoa,
hold on a second. So you had this dream that you're in a building and it's crumbling and you're in it, and you woke up with black eyes?
I had black eyes.
Well, that's probably because you know, maybe in your sleep you were thrashing about it and you hit yourself. And just so you know, that dream has to do about rebirth, about being reborn. So I wouldn't worry so much about that dream, meaning that you're going to die or anything like that. If that's what you're worried about, because dreams like that usually tend to mean that there's a rebirth about to happen, that something new is coming, something fresh is coming, something better is coming. So don't worry so much about dying in your dream that way. It usually doesn't mean what you think it means.
Well, I do think something. I'm on the verge or threshold of something phenomenal. I really do, and I'm going to start going once a day down into the. Well, I invited him upstairs. I told him, you don't have to live down here. I know who you are now, and you cared enough to stay with me. And I think he's been up in the house a time or two because my animals, I've got cats, and they've been looking like they're looking at something and looking up about the heights they look when they're looking at a face and communicating with somebody. And one of them actually looked like she was rubbing, the way they'll rub against your leg, just rubbing against dead, just clear space. So, but I think that really confirmed there is life after death, and it was just amazing when that flashlight clicked on the first time. It was like, oh my God! And the meters were just going off. These particular people had done Waverly in Kentucky and 2 or 3 of the hospitals that are haunted. They've gone to those mental institutions and hospitals. They said they'd never gotten readings like they got at the house. They've never
Charles,
seen anything.
that confirms that your grandfather's presence is very strong there. And like we just suggested, start thinking about the questions you'd like to formulate for him. Sit quietly and listen for the answers. And thank you for calling and sharing. That's wonderful for you sharing.
Thank you so very much for answering and giving your knowledge. I appreciate it. Have a good Halloween.
Happy Halloween.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
And for our listeners out there, phone number to call in with your Halloween stories is 888-919-2355, 888-919-2355. By the way, Rita and
Victor,
Chris,
you do that so well.
Well, thank you so much. Tonight is the 75th anniversary of the Mercury Radio Theater, Orson Welles' rendition of H.G. Wells' War of the Worlds, which had half of the United States thinking we were being invaded from Mars. You remember that? I was there. 75 years ago tonight.
Yeah, well,
Well,
you're
that's
not
really
70.
cool.
He's not 75, Dr. Rita.
It was
He's
in
not
my
at
past
75.
life. It was in our past.
That's right. Both of our past lives. That's right.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing about it is, for those of our listeners who are young and don't know the story, is Orson Welles, a very famous actor and director, did a radio dramatization of the H.G. Wells story, The War of the Worlds. And what they did was they wrote it in such a way that it sounded like they were listening to their regular radio program. And you got to remember, this is before TV and before tablets and computers and before cable. People listened to the radio and read books and things like that. Books, those things that are printed on paper and have bound.
Well, not anymore. Now you just get, like an electronic file delivered to your Kindle.
There you go. But in any event, so people were listening to the radio shows, and the radio shows in those days were some talk, a lot of music, and then news break-ins. And what happened was they pretended it was a regular radio show, and they broke in with these series of bulletins. And the first bulletin says that an astronomer from a certain observatory saw these explosions on the surface of the planet Mars. And then 5 minutes later, they went back to the program. 5 minutes later, they said it seemed like something was coming toward Earth. And then 5 minutes later, they said there were reports of seismic activity in Grover's Mills, New Jersey, which is in South Jersey, not too far from Princeton. And then they started having reports about these machines that had burrowed into the ground, and then all of a sudden the machines opened up, the Martians came out, and all hell broke loose, and they started attacking and killing and destroying everything in their path. And people who were listening, now, at the beginning of the show and during the show, a couple of times they announced that it was a dramatization, a radio play, but people didn't hear that, and people actually panicked and started evacuating cities, getting armaments, getting ready to fight a war. It was pretty amazing.
Well, and I think for, people contemporary, when they break in with a weather report or some kind of breaking news onto a regular program, it's the same kind of impact, but just think about it. All those people got totally spoofed.
That's right. And just for those of you listening to UFO Paranormal Radio, Joe just told me that it's playing after our show tonight, that you'll hear the entire Mercury Radio Theater broadcast that was broadcast 75 years ago tonight will be following our broadcast tonight. So that's pretty cool, Joe. Thank you for sharing that.
That is cool.
That's very cool. You know what I wanted to bring up? The caller that we just had on brought up Waverly Sanitarium in Kentucky, and he said how whatever investigators that came to his house had better EVPs at his house than they did at Waverly. You know, I did an investigation at Waverly when years ago when I had my old paranormal team, and we were part of the Maury Povich show. We were actually the investigating team for the Maury Povich show, and they sent us to Waverly Sanitarium. And I'll tell you what, that to this day is one of my, I would say, top 3 favorite places that I've ever investigated. It's so eerie, and it's open, and there's bats flying around, and it's absolutely crazy. And when he said that they didn't get great EVPs in, I mean, that kind of blows my mind, because we got incredible, like Class A EVPs there. One of the I would say most interesting things that ever happened to me while I was doing investigations for the Maury Povich show happened there. There's a morgue, and they have the drawers where you put the bodies in, and they had this idea that I would lie in a drawer and try and channel one of the tuberculosis patients. Okay, yeah, no, this is a true story.
I believe it, but it's still like creepy. But go ahead.
Yeah, no, but I loved it. I was all for it, and it was myself and my brother-in-law, who was on the team at the time, and a bunch of people from the Maury Povich show. You know, a couple producers, a couple cameramen, and that's it. We go in this room, and they open a drawer. They tell me which one I want to go in. I start doing my thing, feeling which one I didn't think was going to be so bad. So I climb into this, death drawer, and I lie down, and I would say within a minute I start channeling. Well, the producer, which was this really sweet girl, and the 2 cameramen that were up there got so freaked out. Now, you have to understand, there was no light. The only light that there was from the night vision camera that they were using, okay, and a flashlight that the producer had. That was it. They got so freaked out when I started channeling the spirit that they ran out of the room. Left me and my brother-in-law in the pitch black, me in a channeling state, and my brother-in-law not able to see me, thinking, oh my God, what the hell do I do now? So he was really smart. And he's usually not that smart, but he was smart that day. Because he was right next to me, and he put his hands on my chest while I lied in the in this death drawer, I guess you want to call it, and he kind of like shook me out of it, and I popped out of my channeled state, and I was like, dude, it's dark in here. He goes, they left us. They freaking left us. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. They don't have it. They never filmed it because they got scared and they ran out. And if you ever see the Maury Povich show about the Waverly Sanitarium, when we went there, you won't see that scene. But what they did was they reenacted something that and they made a bunch of baloney because it didn't even happen, where they actually had one of the death drawers closing by itself. But they set it up. It didn't honestly happen, which kind of pissed me off because we had this great footage of me channeling in the same room, and they didn't use it because they got scared and ran out. I just that was one of the great times.
Hey, Chris, that's a wonderful story, Chris. Chris and Rita, we have another caller on the line, but I just want to bring something up. I monitor CNN 24/7 because I'm kind of a news freak. CNN is reporting that NASA says that something has knocked out the Hubble Space Telescope, that they've lost transmission about 5 minutes ago from the Hubble Space Telescope, and they're trying to reestablish communication. They're not sure, but they think something may have hit the Hubble Space Telescope.
Did it come from Mars? I mean, you kind of sound a little like Orson Welles. Are we starting this whole thing up?
Well, I don't know, but they don't have a confirmation on it yet. But they're gonna. I'm gonna follow this story, and I'll bring updates as we go along. But in the meantime, we have a caller, and that caller is somebody that we know very well, Chris. His name is Bud, but we know him as Cop. Hey, Cop, how are you?
Hey, how you doing, Chris, Vic, Rita?
We're doing good. Thanks for calling.
I'm going to tell you a little story what happened to my father. He was a big builder in New Jersey, and what he did was he entered a house about a mile from here to estimate inside to remodel it. It was him, my uncle, and a workman. As they went into the house, they're looking around. They walked up toward the steps to take you upstairs. Here comes a woman, straight down the steps, stops about the third step from the floor, looks at my dad, looks at the two men, turns around, goes back up the steps and through the wall. And everybody just looking at each other. They went upstairs, and the nearest bedroom from where that wall was about 25 feet away. So now they decided, well, I'm going to break a big hole in this wall, find out what's going on. He ended up doing a demolition upstairs. And here they seen something, a woman's spirit, well, like in white and all, and just disappeared. They never talked about that until 10 years ago when it was brought up. Because my father is skeptical, and that's why he was he taught me until I started seeing different things. And
but I mean, listen. The fact of the matter is, years ago, people didn't talk about this stuff. It was kind of an unspoken rule that you just didn't talk about this. Now, I'm only 40. I'm going to be 45 in December. And if I go back to when I was 10 years old, I started seeing spirit. You know, it was hush hush. You know. And that was only, 35 years ago. And people didn't want to talk about it, they didn't want to acknowledge it then. You go back further, now Victor, Rita, I mean, you have to...
But you know what's really interesting, Chris? I've been doing research on ghosts, in the historical sense of the word. And did you know, you, Victor, and Bud, and everybody listening, did you know that there was a belief in ghosts that goes back, like there's the story, the Epic of Gilgamesh, which is the first epic narrative that they actually have on cuneiform, that was Sumerian. It was written by the Babylonians, but it was based on a Sumerian story, which they have fragments of the story. So they believe that it goes back at minimum 2500 BC, minimum. They think the story is obviously much older. And in that story, one of the characters, Enkidu, was dying, and he says to Gilgamesh, he goes, but when I die, I don't want to come back as a ghost. And one of the things that I discovered in my research was that, one of the reasons that we have burial rituals, like why we have a funeral service, or like why the Egyptians or the Incas buried their dead with grave goods, was because if they died and didn't have a good death, or didn't have a good funeral, and weren't prepared for the afterlife, there was a huge fear that they would come back and haunt you. So don't you think that's kind of interesting that we still bury people in the way we do and have these funeral services with flowers and this ritual and all of this stuff based on something that goes back minimally 5,000 years, but really the first burials that have grave goods go back 100,000 years. So we are actually still carrying on a tradition that's at least 100,000 years old.
And Rita, is cremation to eliminate the possibility of the body rising again? Is that the reason for cremation? Yeah.
Well, and in some cultures, it was
Native
just
American Indian were against cremation. It's against our principles. Being, we're not allowed to burn the body. It goes into a proper ceremony and beads and everything else, and then from there, you cannot talk about the death until like 2 weeks later or 30 days later. Then you celebrate the life of the person. This is some of the Native American ways. So they don't believe in burning the body, cremation.
Well, and in some cultures, burning is considered purification. Ritual
Absolutely.
fire is considered purification. So it might have been part of a purification ritual. I don't really know. I haven't really investigated the whole cremation, but I need to add that to my list when that actually came into, the conscious mode and what were some of the original pieces tied to it. But Bud, thanks for calling and sharing your story with us.
One more thing. Before I was skeptical on different things, but when I started learning stuff with Chris George here and Vic, I happened to come across a shadow being. And then later I spotted a UFO when I listened to Joe, different things. It's all coming together like a puzzle. So that was it.
We're glad to be able to help you and to assist you on your journey there, Mr. Kopp. You've been a loyal listener for a long time, and thanks for calling.
Right.
Happy Halloween.
Same to you.
Happy Halloween, bud.
Yeah, same to all.
Take care. I think this is a good time. I have some little historical information on Halloween, and the holiday that preceded what we know as Halloween was a pagan, Celtic-based celebration called Samhain. Now, the word is spelled Samhain, and some might say it's pronounced Samhain, but it's actually pronounced Samhain. And it was considered by Wiccans and pagans to be a Sabbath, to honor the ancestors who came before us, a good time to contact the spirit world with a seance, because it's time that it's said that the veil is thin between this world and the next, the thinnest time of the year. Now, contrary to popular belief, Samhain was not the name of an ancient Celtic god of death or anything else. Religious scholars agree that the word Samhain comes from the Gaelic Samhain, but they're divided as to whether it means the end or the beginning of summer. Because when summer is ending here on Earth, it's just beginning in the underworld or the afterlife. Samhain actually refers to the daylight portion of the holiday, which is on November 1st. Now, around the 8th century, the Catholic Church decided to use November 1st as All Saints' Day. This was actually a pretty smart move on their part because the local pagans were already celebrating that day anyway, so it made sense to use it as a church holiday. All Saints became the festival to honor any saint who didn't already have a day of their own, and the Mass which was said on All Saints' Day was called All Hallow Mass, the Mass of those who are hallowed. That's the night before then became All Hallows' Eve, and eventually morphed into the word that we use today, Halloween. Now, sunset on Samhain is the beginning of the Celtic New Year. The old year has passed, the harvest has been gathered, cattle and sheep have been brought in from the fields, and the leaves are falling from the trees. And the earth slowly begins to die around us. So it's a good time to look at the wrapping up of the old and preparing for the new, to think about things that we've done during the last 12 months. Have you left anything unresolved? If so, now is a good time to wrap things up. And once you've gotten all that unfinished stuff cleared away, put your costume on and go out trick-or-treating.
Well, that's pretty interesting.
That is very interesting. But Dr. Rita, Joe wants to know if you want us to just skip the break and go straight through. That's completely up to you.
Well, I just got a message that we were just going to take a shorter break, like a 3 or 4 minute break.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's fine by us.
Okay. But there's still 15 minutes. So,
I know. Yeah, we're good to go. Let's keep it going. Do we have any more callers? I love taking the callers.
Not yet, but let's give out that number again. 888-919-2355. That's 888-919-2355.
So I want out of town, call collect. 888-919.
Yeah, that.
So, Dr. Rita.
I want to share a story.
Oh, yes, please do.
So when I, actually, it was not much after I was on your guys' show, because I was on Second Sight, New York, in the beginning of June. And I had talked to you on air about going to New York and going to where I had gone to school, and I got to go back to that haunted house that I lived in.
Wow.
Which was very cool. I didn't get to go inside. I couldn't muster up enough guts to go knock on the door, but I thought about it, but I got a bunch of pictures. But I just want to share the story with the listeners because it's a hysterical story. And so my listeners, they know me. They know that I have like zero phonic skills, so I can't pronounce anybody's names, and it's just really kind of embarrassing. But anyway, you have to understand that part of me for this story to make sense. And so I was in college, and I found out that there was a room for rent in this house. It was a 4-bedroom upstairs of a Victorian house, great location, utilities included, and in upstate New York, having your winter utilities included is worth every penny because it just gets expensive. And so I go over there to check it out. And the downstairs, because it was a Victorian, 2 floors, in the downstairs they had a sign in the window and it says mausoleum. And so I thought they sold floor covering. And so I go and I look at the place, and it's a nice room, nice big room, big window, and take the room. Well, I'm in one of the bars because that's kind of what you did when you were 18. You hang out in the bars on Friday night, and I'm talking to this guy, and he goes, well, where do you live? And I said, well, I live on the corner of 5th and Bridge. Well, he was a townie, and, which meant he grew up in that town. He goes, oh, you live in the old funeral parlor. And I was like, what? Wait a minute. I grew up in a haunted house. I don't really want to be living in another haunted house. Yeah, I lived in the funeral parlor. And then I made some comment to somebody about, the place with that mausoleum sign in the window. And they go, well, what do you mean? That doesn't say mausoleum. That says mausoleums. I was like, oh, man. But anyway, that's just the preview for this story. This place, because it was split into 2 apartments, there was the front door, and they had built a wall. And on the left-hand side was the door that went into the downstairs. And on the right-hand side was the door. When you opened it up, there was just a staircase right there, which was our side. And on that door, I hung these little bells. So if you turn the knob, it would ring the bells, and you could hear upstairs that there was somebody coming in the door. Well, what you would hear was the sound as if somebody had opened that outside door, because the bells would jingle a little bit, from the change in air pressure. And you would wait for somebody to come and either open our door and come up the stairs, or somebody to open the door into the offices downstairs. But that wouldn't happen. You wouldn't hear anything. And then the next thing you would know, all right, and I was there a lot by myself, I would hear of somebody coming up the stairs, and it was like, oh my God. So of course I just had to put the music up really loud, or I'd go in my room. And this was before I knew anything about like energy work or healing or anything. My room was the safe room, so if my roommates got really scared, they'd all pile into my room, because I would fill my room with like this golden energy and just like put this force field of protection around the walls, and those spooks weren't coming into my room. Apparently it worked, because all of my roommates felt safe in that room. And I mean, we had all kinds of weird stuff that happened in that house. It was just, we would have people come over and they would have an experience and they would never come back in our house. I don't want to say we lost friends, but we lost friends because of our house, the funeral.
Yeah, but you know what? At least you did something good by protecting it, and you made people feel safe. I mean, people could take a little bit of advice from that. So many times people have things going on in their house, and they just let it be. They don't do nothing about it. And if they would just do a little space clearing, or and intent is very important. The intent that you put into something, putting white light into your house, and whatnot, or golden light, which I prefer. It goes a long way in helping people. People don't have to be scared in their homes.
Well, and I never use white light. I don't know where that whole convention of white light came from. I always heard that white light was a transmedium color and you should never use it. So I don't, and I don't really like white light. I love golden light and filling a space with, and I will tell people if they're having a hard time creating that intention, that if you light a candle in front of you, and just imagine that the little aura around the candle just starts to grow and grow and grow until it surrounds your whole house with that warm light of that candle. It works really good.
Yeah, it's amazing you're saying that, because I use that technique in my psychic development class, as a matter of fact. And
that's because I'm having a psychic moment on you.
Well, you see, there you have it. I love that. And the thing with gold is gold is the color of healing and protection. Mm-hmm. And that's why it's very, very good to use the golden light. It's very powerful. And as long as your intent is strong and pure, there's no limits to what you can do.
Absolutely. But I mean, even if you think about it from a chakra perspective, I mean, that's a third chakra color. It's all about color or about power. Mm-hmm. And I like it also because it illuminates, it lights up the corners.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
I've been monitoring CNN while we've been talking, and they just had another flash over here. They're now saying that both the Hubble and the Kepler space telescopes have been knocked out by something. They're not sure what. But they're also reporting flashes of light of something burning up, like coming through the atmosphere in the vicinity of Staten Island, Chris. So I'm not sure if you can look out a window right now, but perhaps something is headed your way.
Oh, Jesus, that's all I need. I used to date an alien. Now I gotta worry about aliens trying to abduct me.
Oh, wait a minute. You know, this is a ghost show, but I think I want to hear this alien story.
No, you don't. I've been trying to rip the karma of that alien off my body for a year now, and I still haven't been able to do it. So we won't get into that. But
Rita,
listen,
you know the way the alien movie sort of goes into your stomach, rips your guts out, and destroys you? Well, that's the kind of alien Chris was talking about.
Ah.
She went in, ripped his heart out, and then destroyed him, but not really destroyed him because he's
Not
a strong
really.
guy, and he came back better than ever.
You better believe it. I mean, look at me now.
That's right.
But so listen, we have 7 minutes left. Victor, I know you have another story to share about something paranormal, something that's happened. And listen, we've had things that have happened with us together.
Absolutely. We've had some amazing things happen together. For those of our listeners who did not see this, Chris did a spirit removal or a spirit detachment from a young girl who lives in Staten Island. And it was pretty powerful work. And during the course of this work, I was standing behind the girl, and I was using energy, projecting energy, and channeling it so that I was pushing the spirit out, and Chris was trying to pull the spirit out. And there came a point where Chris, in the video, his head sort of jumps back, and he turns around and says, "Did you guys see that?" And they said, "What is it?" And he said, "There's a face that came jumping out." As soon as he says this, a face forms in my shirt and stays there the entire time of the duration of this work. And it looks like one of the masks of tragedy forming in the left side of my shirt as I'm standing behind this young woman. That was pretty outstanding, Chris.
Well, the video, listen, nobody's seen it. I seen it. I seen the face jump out at me from the girl, and then it manifested in your shirt. And
right.
and none of us saw it at first. And then the guy who was videotaping, his name is Vinny, he was behind me videotaping, and
right.
he started looking at the film because I wanted to take a break. Is that, it startled me for a second. And he was like, "Guys, you're not going to believe this. You're not going to believe this." I said, "You got it on film?" He says, "Not exactly, but you're not going to believe this." He says, Watch when you jump what happens to Victor's shirt." And as soon as I jump back, immediately there's a face like being pushed out of your shirt. And listen, we've had the video on Facebook many times, and every time we put it up there, we get 40, 50, 70, 80 comments on it. That was one of the most amazing things that I'd ever seen. I mean, So
do you think you can put it back up there, since we're talking about it on the show,
sure.
for people to go check it out? Since it is Halloween and everything.
Yeah, Victor, do you have it where you can put it up right now?
Absolutely.
Actually,
I'm going to put it up on Facebook right now.
Yeah, and if you could, send me the link, and I'll put it in the chat room, too, for the people that are in my chat room, that they can.
Okay, that'll be great. Yeah, it's really a great video. And I'll tell you another thing. There was, I don't know, I guess it was about 5 years ago. There was this guy, Mark, here in Staten Island, and he was having some really bad problems with spirit in his house. And he lived behind a funeral parlor. And I've been called to this house 4 times in 6 years. The same house, all different occupants, because people just kept moving out. All right? For whatever reason, spirit just seemed to gravitate towards this house. I remember walking in the house and saying, "You know what, guys, you're not going to believe what I'm seeing." And they were like, "Well, what do you see?" I said, "Well, to me, it kind of looks like an evil clown." And they were like, yeah, okay, Chris, whatever. And I said, "What do you mean, whatever? This is what I do for a living. I'm considered one of the better at what I do in this career field. Believe me." I said, "I want everyone to start taking pictures in this corner right now." And I don't know how many pictures they took, but it was quite a few. I'm going to say 70, 80 pictures between like 4 or 5 people. And then one person says to me, "Oh my God, you're not going to believe this." And it was the picture. Now, when you look at the picture, you want to say it looks like an evil clown? Okay. I show it to Joe Montaldo. He says it looks like a reptilian alien. I show it to people who are very into the paranormal, and they say it looks like a demon. It's one of the scariest pictures that you could ever see. It's so good, this picture, Dr. Rita Louise, that I had an underground wrestling Federation contact me and say, can I use that picture for our Halloween Havoc show? They actually paid me $1,500 to use my picture as the picture to promote their show.
Cool.
One of the craziest pictures you've ever seen. And I can actually put that up on my wall as well if you want.
Okay. Yeah. We love stuff like that.
Yeah, this is a good one.
Okay, so I'm looking. We have 3 minutes, and I'm just going to throw this question out to you guys, and I'd like your thoughts. What about Harry Houdini? Because he was supposed to come back on Halloween as part of a seance, and you were talking about seances earlier. What happened? How come he never came back? Any thoughts?
Well, the only way he can come back in a seance is if there's a medium who's going to channel him. And the way it works for a medium, well, I could speak for myself, is, we don't have much control over who comes through. For instance, I've wanted to channel my father many, many times, and I've only been able to do it twice. I've wanted to channel my grandfather. I've never been able to do it, and this is what I do for a living. But on the other hand, I've channeled thousands of other spirits. It has to be the right medium at the right time, and it has to be when Houdini is ready to actually come back. Everything has to work out right. Well, I don't know.
Well, maybe after the break, maybe Wayne can come and you can channel him, and he can be like, "Woo!" That'd be cool. I'd like that.
Oh, I would love to do that. That would be awesome. We should try and set something up where we do a live feed on video and do like a live seance or something like that. I'm definitely up to do that one day.
About Harry Houdini, his deal was that he had said to his wife that he was going to come back each year at the time of Halloween, or try to come back at Halloween. And there was a certain code word or code phrase that he had given her that only she would know, and that would be the evidence of his return. But I believe that he wanted to believe, but because of all of the mediums, the phony mediums that he debunked at that time, I think in his mindset that he didn't really think the afterlife existed. And let's face it, he was the world's greatest escape artist, and maybe he just escaped from the world finally and decided not to come back. So,
well, I'm being told that it's time for us to go to a break. So I'll just do my thing. I'll let you do your thing, and then we'll cut out. I'm Dr. Rita Louise. This is Just Energy Radio.
Go ahead, Victor. You take us out.
Just Energy Radio with your host, Dr. Rita Louise, will return right after these messages.
You're listening to IRN, the Inception Radio Network, Chicago, Illinois.
Are you looking for a cure for boredom? Never worry. IRN's new interactive website introduces a number of ways to pass time while you listen to your favorite show. Choose anything from the IRN Chat Lounge, the Game Lounge, Video Lounge, or the Mood Lounge. These fun, exciting features let you chat in real time with fellow listeners, view live skywatches, play daily posted online games, or pick a show based on topic. The choices are endless. Use your time wisely, keeping it all on IRN.
Move past the crossroads in your life and discover alternative solutions to your deepest concerns at soulhealer.com. So whether it's a physical problem, an emotional issue, a question about work, or troubles in your relationships, naturopath and medical intuitive Dr. Rita Louise can help you. Bring peace, harmony, and health back into your life. Schedule a session today. Visit soulhealer.com right away and live the life you've been dreaming of.
You didn't forget what's coming up tonight, did you? Hi, Inception Radio Network listeners. This is Amanda. Never miss that interview you were looking forward to or the show on your favorite topic. Follow IRN on Twitter, I_R_N, and get reminders about the evening's live shows as well as fun and important updates throughout the week. That's I_R_N, and never miss a great show again.
Who were the gods of antiquity? They've been described as the forces of nature, levels of consciousness, and aspects of our psyche. Stories that depict their incredible weapons, their flying machines, and their amazing adventures are characterized as being the product of our ancestors' fanciful imaginations. But what if the tales of the gods are true? Did the writers, chroniclers, and scribes of our distant past actually document a realistic view of our origin? My latest book, Man-Made: The Chronicles of Our Extraterrestrial Gods, looks at our most ancient legends. Learn of the torrid romances, elaborate plots, violent scandals, and conspiracies that played out in antiquity. Find out the role the gods played in the life and culture we have today. If you want to find out the truth of who we are and where we come from, order your copy of Man-Made today. For more information, go to www.manmadethechronicles.com. That's www.manmadethechronicles.com.
Don't have a computer? Is your internet connection down? Don't worry. Use your trusty landline or cell phone and dial or call and listen lines at 832-280-0830 or 786-837-2262 to listen to the Inception Radio Network 24/7. Again, those numbers are 832-280-0830 or 786-837-2262. For the Inception Radio Network, I'm MJ.
Hello, Inception Radio Network listeners. This is Amanda. Remember, you can take your Inception Radio shows on the go. Just download the Inception Radio Network app for your iPhone, iPad, or Android smartphones and access live shows, past shows, guest lineups, and much more. Just visit the iTunes Store or the Google Play Marketplace and download it today for free. Hello, Inception Radio Network. Would you like your favorite show to be played again live on air? Well, now the choice is in your hands with IRN's live request portal, an easy way to request your favorite show with a simple click. IRN's live request portal now gives you exclusive access to all the shows. How easy is it? Simply type a show name or a guest name, click request, even write a dedication message, and that's it. Try it now. Simply visit InceptionRadioNetwork.com, click on the Live Request tab under the Show menu. Now playing your favorite show is just a mouse click away.
And now back to Just Energy Radio with Dr. Rita Louise.
Okay, and welcome back to Just Energy Radio. I'm your host, Dr. Rita Louise, and happy Halloween to all of you. Just Energy Radio is brought to you by SoulHealer.com and the Institute of Applied Energetics. That's www.appliedenergetics.com. One quick announcement. I'm not sure how we're going to bring everybody back together because it is a spooky spectacular today. But don't forget to check out AncientMysteriesInternational.com. That's AncientMysteriesInternational.com. And look into going to Angkor Wat, March 22nd through 30th with myself, Stephen Knapp, and Sasha and Janet Lesson for AM14.
Yeah, I know we're back because every time we come back from break, I go you hear an echo for about 2 seconds and then we're live. So we're live, and anyway, thank you for coming back. Second Sight in New York. This is hour number 2. You're listening to Psychic Medium Chris George and my co-host Victor the Voice Fuhrman, and we are joined with Dr. Rita Louise, and we are having a fantastic
from Just Energy Radio because we're all hanging together.
Yeah, this is a great show tonight. You're listening to UPRN 107.7 FM out of New Orleans, and why don't we just get right to it? I want to talk about the Church of Second Sight, and my topic for the Church of Second Sight tonight. And I'm going to ask Dr. Rita Louise and Mr. Voice about their opinion on what I'm going to say. It's about a very big pet peeve that I have. Okay, well, they're saying that we have no sound. Victor, do you see that that we have sound over there? Or no.
I just put in a message that said no sound right now.
All right. Well, I'm gonna.
I'm not getting any comments on my end, so we're still on air here, I think.
Okay. Well, what I'm going to do is, sound is back. They can hear us.
Sound is back.
All right, we're back.
It's those ghostesses getting us again.
Those damn ghosts. Anyway, my Church of Second Sight is about psychics who brag, and it really bothers me because I go on Facebook every day, and I have a few psychic friends, and I don't even know if they're really psychic. They say they are, and they go on and they put up there, I just gave a reading to this woman, and I blew her away, and I was amazing, and she was crying, and I connected her with her father, and blah, 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 blah. And it just irks me because, all right, first of all, you're bragging, okay? Nobody likes a bragger. That's number one. Number two, take it from somebody who's actually really good at what he does. Let other people do the talking for you. Give somebody a reading, and let them talk about how good you are, okay? You don't talk about yourself when it comes to giving a reading. Okay, you're a fool if you do. Okay, and coming from a psychic medium, and I'm not just me, but any psychic medium that's good at what they do, any psychic that's worth their weight. Okay, they're not going to go on Facebook and brag about how great of a reading they just gave because you look like a fool to other psychics that are actually good at what they do. Because we wouldn't do that. Okay, it's ridiculous. Another thing, it's unprofessional. Okay, people come to us and you want to bring it, you made a connection, you're a friggin' psychic medium. They're coming to you to make a connection. So you're going to brag about doing what you're supposed to do? I mean, are you kidding me? Does a dentist brag about being able to pull a friggin' tooth out? No. Why? Because that's what he's supposed to do. You're supposed to make a damn connection, so make the connection. And don't go telling everybody about it because they don't need to know. Facebook doesn't need to know the business of the person you just read. There's got to be some confidentiality.
That's bad.
That is a huge pet peeve of mine. How dare you go on Facebook and talk about a reading that you gave to somebody? Now, this person might not be on Facebook, and they'll never see that you're talking about them. That is so rude. But they might. It's rude. It's disrespectful. It's uncalled for, and it shouldn't ever happen. Okay? And what I suggest is when you people see this going on out there, psychics talking about how great they are and what a great reading they just gave, send them a little message and say, you know what? You sound like an ass. Okay? Keep that shit to yourself. You know, you're doing what you're supposed to do. Don't broadcast it. Psychics don't broadcast, what they do. Why would you?
But it
you
goes
look like
deeper than that, Chris. It goes deeper.
So give it to me. Give me how deep it goes. I need to know.
Okay, but I mean, it goes deeper than that. I mean, because to me, when we're connecting with spirit, when we're connecting with God, because I believe that we're given this gift, to be able to provide these insights. And when you're going around saying, I'm great, I'm great, I'm great, and you meet, and you're using it. I mean, I joke around, I tell people, I want to be omnipotent, but it's me joking around. It's not that that's what I really think. But if you're really looking for that kind of validation, I feel like that brings in ego. Ego creates separation. And so how much are you really connecting?
Exactly.
Shoot, I just realized, Rita, you just said the word omnipotent, and I've been using the wrong word. I've been telling people that I'm impotent, and it should have been omnipotent.
Well, you're taking that medication now, so you should be better.
There you go.
Well,
hey, Chris.
Yes.
I just want to say that Peace Lover in our chat room on Pal Talk said that you are a debunker, and I just want to let Peace Lover know he's not a debunker, he's a triple E bunker. So just keep that straight, please. Thank you very much.
You better believe it, brother.
That's right.
But,
that's right.
I just want to say, I actually, and after I wrote this, I wrote a whole big thing on Facebook about it, telling people, you know what, shut up, don't brag, let other people brag for you, because it means more when somebody else says you're good, as opposed to you saying you're good. You say you're good, you sound like a moron. Somebody else says you're good, they're like, if this person is saying he's good or she's good, maybe they're good. It holds more weight.
Get your friends to go online and say that stuff about you.
That's right. Absolutely. Absolutely you could. And I got to tell you something, Dr. Rita. You know how many inboxes I got after this from psychics saying, you know what, Chris, you're a piece of shit. I can't believe you said that. I cannot believe that you would go on Facebook and say something like that. And I said, I'm a piece of shit? Have you ever seen me go on Facebook and brag about how great I am? No. But if go look at my fan page, tell me how many fans I have. That tells you that I'm good. Okay? I never, ever talk about a reading because it's not professional.
It's not professional. I mean, people
ridiculous.
do expect a certain level of confidentiality.
Yeah, you know, and people in the chat room is saying that the psychics hate him now. The truth is, I couldn't care less. You know, 2 weeks ago, I told the whole paranormal community to kiss my ass because I don't like how everybody talks bad about each other. And then now I'm telling the psychics, you know what? Be professional. If you can't handle the truth, then you know what? I don't need you as a friend. I don't need you. I'm good enough with my small little group that I have.
And Chris, the satisfaction should come from the fact that you've given someone some form of hope, some form of inspiration, a message they needed to hear. And in many cases, for me, it's a healing. So that's where the satisfaction comes from. It's not from boasting about your ability. It's what you bring to your client.
Of course. I mean, absolutely. Does it take a moron? I mean, are these people really that dumb or shallow or they're not seeing the big picture of how ridiculous they are? I don't know. Maybe it's me. Maybe I'm out of line. I don't know. I mean, I got enough inboxes from enough psychics telling me to shut up. But, that ain't happening. So, I mean, maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. What do you think? Am I wrong or am I right?
I mean, I don't think you're wrong. I would never go, I don't know, maybe I'm just too humble. But I would never go around saying that I'm great. I mean, I joke around about it here and there, and sometimes I'll make some joke and people think I'm serious, which I'm not. But I just think that, you have the people that call you up and they go, well, how good are you? And it's like, well, what people say is this. Because it's what people say. It's not what I'm saying. This is what I do. It comes through me. It doesn't have anything to do with me. This work doesn't have anything to do with me. I just am the vehicle that delivers the message.
Exactly.
And Dr. Rita Louise is absolutely right. She's not serious. She's Inception Radio Network, and we're UFO Paranormal Radio Network. And I just wanted to clarify that for anybody listening, thinking they're listening to Sirius right now, because we're not serious. Thank you.
But they should listen to Inception Radio Network because I'm on it.
Absolutely. and I just want to share, I've got another blip in here from CNN. I've been reporting these stories throughout the evening. I'm a CNN aficionado. I have bulletins from CNN. It turns out we originally reported that both the Kepler and the Hubble space telescopes were destroyed by something that hit them. And then we had a report that there was some form of fireball over New Jersey and approaching Staten Island. We now have confirmation that a metallic canister has crashed on the South Beach section of Staten Island, and I'm waiting for more details on that. But a metallic canister
I got to tell you, Victor,
on the South Beach section of Staten Island. What's that, Chris?
My brother came down during the break and told me, he says, Chris, are you watching the news? You see what's going on? I'm like, Danny, I'm doing a radio show. No, I have no idea what's going on. And then we had to go live. I said, listen, got to get out of here. Let me do what I got to do. I'll talk to you later. And now I hear all this coming from you. This is some crazy stuff going on.
Hey,
well,
Chris,
at least you're not going static on us, with down power lines or, down satellite communications in your area and stuff like that. So,
well, he's on the opposite end of Staten Island, but now there's another report coming in that the canister started untwisting and is opened, and some type of machine, a flying machine, is coming out of that canister and is starting to smite the entire area of South Beach, Staten Island. Oh, my God.
Oh, God. Listen, I could give him an address of one person I'd like him to abduct and just get off Staten Island. But that's a whole nother story.
Friends,
they came to visit her.
There you go. And friends, if you want to join us and share your scariest Halloween stories or any scary story, call us at 888-919-2355. Again, 888-919-2355.
Well, there you have it. And just so you know,
I want to throw a topic out.
Yes.
For us to talk about. Because you mentioned it before, and I think this is a good one. Entity release work. They say, like, there are people, and I don't know how you do your work, but I mean, I've been around people that are demonologists, whatever, and they just go and they just start praying over someone, or they think, if I throw some holy water on them or smudge,
it doesn't
it's going to do something. So, I mean, I have definitely my opinion. What do you think about just doing these generic, say a Hail Mary over someone that's going to do something?
Victor, do you want to take that, or do you want me? I'm the one who gets in trouble for this topic all the time. So
I'll take it. I'll take it, and then you can go ahead and get in trouble. I'm not going to get in trouble because I'm a little more mild in my answering. But here's the deal. If someone knows how to work with energy, they don't need anything. They don't need smudge. They don't need incense. They don't need crystals. If someone is truly a gifted energy worker, that's all you need, because the combination of energy with intention is what's really needed to do this type of work, and also skill. It requires skill. It's something that the novice should not attempt to do, and people shouldn't attempt to do on their own. But if you're a skilled energy worker and you have the right tools and the intention, that's fine. For someone to go in and start smudging someone, or using crystals, or using dowsing rods or divining rods, or whatever you want to use, without any type of background or experience, you're asking for trouble. Number one, for yourself, and number two, for the psychological well-being of the person you're working on. That's my 2 cents. Steve? Steve, God, Chris. Steve? Where'd Steve come from?
You're out of control, man.
Thank you, Chris.
You see what I have to deal with, Dr. Rita? Anyway.
No, it's like, is he talking to your entity or something?
I have no idea who he's talking to. He's getting a little old, so, that's why he keeps me around, to keep him, stable. Anyway, Victor, don't hold that against me. My thoughts on it. Prayer is good. It helps. Prayer is a Band-Aid. This is where I get in trouble, because you have your very religious people out there, and they believe that, prayer is everything. God is everything. It's all about, Jesus. And as long as you, call out to Jesus to save you, you'll be fine. Unfortunately, I live in the real world, and I've been part of close to 90 exorcisms in my life, where many times priests have gone and done the rites of exorcism the way the Catholic Church does it. And, they do their prayers, and they light their church incense, and they bring the sage, and they sprinkle the holy water, and they chant. And what happens, Dr. Rita, is it does help. It absolutely helps. But that's all it does. It's just a Band-Aid. It's almost like it's masking the problem, and the problem's still there. What it'll do is it might calm it down for a week or two, or a month or two. You never know, depending on how strong the intent was that the priest or the religious person put into it. What I find is it just doesn't work. And this is, again, where I get into trouble, because the way I do exorcism is, we do some prayer. Victor is a spiritual medium, and he comes there and he does his thing, and I have my team that's around me. What we do is we actually pull the entity into me. I actually channel the entity, and we break the energy down until there's nothing left, and it can go on anywhere from, 2 hours to, I've done it as long as 13 hours. I did an exorcism in Mexico City that took me 13 hours, and I don't feel that prayer works. I feel that prayer is important. I feel that it helps, but it's just a Band-Aid. And in the end, it doesn't take care of the problem. I know people are going to listen to this, and they're going to get pissed off at me like they always do. And that's okay. What I tell them is the proof is in the results. That's always my answer. The proof is in the results. If what we didn't work, then people wouldn't be calling us wouldn't be calling us for help. If what we didn't work, I couldn't sit up here and really talk about it the way I do. It does work, and I would go up against any priest any day and discuss this with them. Because, and I would love to, and I put it out there on the show before that. I would bring a priest on who does exorcisms, and I would tell him point blank, you know what? I appreciate what you do, I respect what you do, but knowing what I know and doing what I do, I know that it just doesn't work.
Now, Chris, let me just jump in on that. Now,
wait a minute. Let me put in my 2 little cents.
I'm sorry.
My turn.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
And see, I don't even do either of those things. I deal with the entity and have this very psychological, energy work-based approach to dealing with them. And I will start having these dialogues. I'm doing energy work on my client, but really I'm not working on them. I'm doing energy work on the entity and having these dialogues with the entity and finding out what they want. and why they're attached to the person, and clearing them and healing them, because actually entities will heal a lot faster than a person will, and I pull out cords and we dialogue. And, I only work in hour sessions. I won't do a 13-hour thing ever. And, and usually within 2 or 3 sessions, depending on how attached they are, because sometimes they're just not nice. And no matter how much you do, they're just not really going to shift. I can get rid of them,
Well, that's awesome.
And what's really cool is figuring out what the dynamics are and what they're attaching to the person for, and understand what benefit the person is getting. Because once the person understands, well, this is the benefit you were getting, they can break the contract that keeps the entity tied in place, and and then it just gets weird, because sometimes you find that the entity actually has an entity of its own, and you have to break down that relationship and that dynamic. So all of this stuff can break down so that you can get them to move on. But see, I'm really into getting them to voluntarily go, because they've lost interest, because you've gotten them to go into the light, because of some reason other than yelling at them. And we have a question in the chat room. And so, Victor, I'm going to ask you to hang on one more second, since I'm talking and we have a question, and it's related to this topic. And this is from Cinnamon Girl, and it says, have any of you tried releasement therapy, where a negative entity is rehabilitated and returned to source instead of prayed at, yelled at, and smitten?
Absolutely. That's the goal. That's the goal. Absolutely, 100%. Let me tell you, when we go and do a spirit removal, and I'm going to call it spirit removal, we don't want to destroy what's there. We want to rehabilitate it, and we want it to give up voluntarily. We want it to go into the light. We want it to accept going into the light. That's the goal. It is for me. What do you think, Victor?
And one of the things that I've done with Chris in this process is I've offered forgiveness to these errant spirits. And given them a chance for redemption, and also to pass into the light. And that's my specialty. That's what I do.
That's what you do.
That's who I am. That's what I do. But I just want to comment about prayer in general. Prayer in terms of what we're talking about, I agree with Chris to a certain extent, falls short. But prayer for everyday folks, for things like healing and things like setting their lives straight, can be a very powerful tool. So don't negate all prayer, but prayer in the instance of what we're discussing really is not the answer.
But I think prayer, like any tool, really has to come with intention. And if
Absolutely.
you just, saying a rote prayer, like I have seen priests or ministers go and do a blessing in a house, and they just walk around and they just do their generic Our Fathers and whatever. And I'm like, and this is me, because, usually you kind of follow them around. And in my head, I'm going, okay, but that's doing nothing. That's doing nothing. That's doing nothing. So why are they wasting these people time telling them that it's going to help? Because it's not doing anything.
And that's why I teach and advocate power prayer, in which intention is behind the words. It's not just a rote recitation of words. It's words with the conception, visualization, a combination of intentions that make the words a manifestation of that intention.
Absolutely. And I'm going to say another thing about doing an exorcism or spirit removal, whatever you want to call it. I love finding out, like, you mentioned this, Dr. Rita, finding out why the attachment is there. Finding out the story, the reason behind why this attachment happened. I always find it fascinating. And it's why I look forward to when we go into an exorcism situation, Victor. I always love the fact that we, work so hard at figuring out why the attachment is there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, but I also think it gives the person who has the attachment understanding and knowledge, and with that, they gain power. And one of the things that I find with entity attachments in particular is that the person has lost power in certain areas, and that gives the entity the door to control. And so by giving them their power back, they can now, heal those wounds and fill in those spots within themselves where their power has been negated.
Absolutely. 100% correct on that. 100%. And I love, this is one of my favorite topics. You know that, Dr. Rita.
I didn't, but it's one of my favorite topics too.
Can I throw out a little pet peeve of mine about this topic?
Okay.
There's a group out there, and I don't know if you've heard of them. You might even be friends with them on Facebook. I don't know, called the Demon Doctors, and they're not even doctors. One guy, his name is, he calls himself Dr. Hasakani, and the other one is Dr. Dodd, and they're very, very, very well known. It blows my mind that people actually listen to these guys. And they claim to do exorcisms over the phone. They tell them what demon is there, and by the way, everything is a demon. To them.
Yeah, well, let's come back to that topic.
Yeah, Lex. To them, everything is a demon, and they identify the demon, and within 15 minutes, do an exorcism over the phone. Now, he was supposed to come on the show. He was on my show maybe 3 years ago, and I blew him out of the water. And then I called him up. I said, "Listen, you know what? Come back on the show. Let's have a nice spirited debate about exorcism." And he said that he would never ever get on the radio with me again because he thought I was disrespectful. Now, I wasn't disrespectful. I just told him he was full of shit because he was full of shit. So,
hey, Chris.
Yes,
Chris, I hate to break your heart, but I just found out that the Demon Doctors have a new television show starting on Sci-Fi. It's called Dialing for Demons.
Oh God! You know what? I that would just make really make me throw up in my mouth. But They won't even come on the radio with me to discuss how their technique of doing an exorcism over the phone, and diagnosing things within 5 minutes, and bam, you're okay. What do you make of this?
Sorry, I read something in the chat room. Say that again.
I want to know.
There's like this whole dating thing going on in there. So of course it sucked me right in. It's like, yeah, I'm a 45-year-old male. I guess I probably shouldn't say that on air. Okay, wipe that out. Anyway. Yeah, no, I'm not going to make any comment. Go.
I want to know what you think about the whole demon doctor thing, how they do exorcisms over the phone.
Well, I have done spirit release work with people, and I'm going to say over the phone, long distance. I'm going to say long distance, but not in 15 minutes. You can barely get the person's name and what's really going on with them.
Exactly.
15 minutes.
Exactly. I know people who had problems, and they actually contacted me and said, "Listen, we went to the demon doctors. They talked to us for 15 minutes and told us that everything was good after they did some kind of chant on the phone and blah blah blah." And I'm like, you know what? People like that, make it so much harder for somebody who actually knows what they're doing to be taken seriously, because they're obviously a joke. I mean, to even call yourself a demon doctor, I mean, really? I mean, and to them,
right,
like
but what happens? It's like people will go and they'll go to somebody like that, or they'll go to, Mama Lucinda that they found in the back of some, funky catalog, and they'll give them, hundreds of dollars or thousands of dollars to do something, and then they don't do anything. And then people like you and Victor and I get the phone calls, and it's like, well, I've already spent, $5,000 trying to take care of this, and I don't have any money left. And it's like,
oh yeah.
And I don't mean to be mean, but it's like, I'm sorry, that's not my problem. You should have called me first,
Absolutely. Instant Karma in our chat room just said that her great-great-grandpa did the first telegraph exorcism back in the day. I could just see that now. ... Dash, 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 ...
I don't even really know what to do with that. It's like wave the paper over them 3 times and then have them spin around 2 times to the left and click their heels together and say there's no place like home. Oh, I think we have a call coming in. That. I think
we've got a caller.
We have a caller.
All right, let's take it.
Okay, so are you there, caller?
Hi, this is Mike in California, and I've been listening to your show. Very nice. Happy Halloween.
Whose show are you listening to? Are you listening to Just Energy Radio or Second Sight New York City?
I'm listening to Chris and you guys.
And well, never mind.
Chris George.
Okay. Okay, I'm going to cry now. Okay, so how come?
Don't cry.
What's going on?
Well, I know you've been talking about exorcism. So, with that idea, if there are demons, there are also something opposite of that, good spirits, angels. And, perhaps beyond that, is there a God? That's what gives me hope about the whole subject.
Well, I would say absolutely yes. Yeah, I'm gonna share something with you guys, and when I kind of laughed at it. I laughed about it. You know, I did a seance one time, and Spirit came through, and somebody asked, "Is there a God?" And whatever spirit I was channeling said, "Oh yeah, the big guy's out there." And then the woman who asked the question goes, "You sure it's a guy and not a girl?" He said, and through me, the spirit said, "God is whoever you want it to be. You want it to be a guy, it's a guy. You want it to be a girl, it's a girl. But it's a real thing." And that gave me hope, you know, because I have to believe in that, because doing what I do, or doing what we all do, you know, I talk to spirit, okay? I channel spirit. I get messages from spirit. That has to come from somewhere. Where does it come from? There has to be a central point. What you say, Dr. Rita?
No, and I agree. And, you know, as you were talking, it just made me think of something else. You know, there is much more belief and consensus that we are not the only people in the universe, and that there might be other species of intelligent life forms on other planets, you know, but there's still only one God. And whoever God is to those people, it's going to take on the form that is representational to them. And they might not have a male or a female, and their God obviously isn't going to have, like, you know, white hair and a beard and the long flowy robes like our God does. You know,
Right.
and so
That's
it
very
really is part of that cultural base.
Many years ago, my wife had the opportunity to interview the late magician Doug Henning, and they were talking about different aspects of spirituality. And Doug Henning gave her an amazing analogy. He said that God is like a disco ball, multiple facets that represent the reflection of the people who are looking at that. And I thought that was just such a beautiful way of describing that. Yeah,
I love that.
Nice.
If I may interject, Chris said it gives him hope. You know, and I'm thinking that hope comes from the idea that perhaps we're not alone. There's something, an interactive God. I must qualify that, because most people, when they think of God, it's something, you know, we don't really know. It's just more than us. And besides being more than us, does God, actually care about us? That's, to me, the pivotal point right there, because if it's just something that just is some divine order, perhaps as Einstein might have viewed God, you know, that's one thing. But is it actually benevolent? Does it actually care? Will it intercede for us now that we're at a critical moment in history where we're on the verge of self-extinction?
But, you know, we will never know, because that whole concept of God for us as human beings at this point in time is unknowable. And so whether it is a being that did this creation, you know, but then who created God, or is it a presence, or is it consciousness that fills the universe or multiple universes? As humans, we don't know, you know, and that's really where faith comes in. And so if it is a level of consciousness, you know, is consciousness benevolent? You know, it's kind of like, you know, affirmations or thoughts. You know, there are no positive energies or negative energies. It's just our interpretation of it. And so the same thing with God. I would think, you know, it would be our interpretation of it.
I had a wonderful teacher who once said that God made creation, and then said, from this point on, it's partnership. I don't do anything by myself without people working with me. And if you think about it, our bodies renew themselves without intervention. The plants and trees and food items will grow without intervention if left alone. That's the miracle. That's the God. That's the presence. And then it requires us to be partners. And if we're partners positively, then the outcome is positive. If we're partners negatively, then the outcome is negative.
And
if I might say one more thing.
Yeah,
sure.
You know, this past year was a revelation to me, because even though it's been known since the 1990s, scientists agree worldwide that we are now in the throes of a sixth mass extinction event. And I don't know if you've ever heard about that or studied it, but basically it means that most of the species on this planet are dying out. And estimates are that there are anywhere from 500 to 1,000 years. Stephen Hawking has come out and said, you know, we need to find another planet. He thinks we only have 1,000 years left. Essentially, a mass extinction event, by definition, is that 50% plus of the species go extinct, and that's the way we're headed right now. So if there is a God, intercession at this point would be quite, Well,
but good. If you think about the God of the Bible and how God played out, or at least their belief, and if they were good, God would intercede on their behalf. And if they weren't good, God let them perish in battle. And, following the laws and mandates that were handed down by God. But if you look at what's going on the planet right now, especially with relationship to these, the dying off of species, it didn't have anything to do with God. It had to do with us thinking that we can control everything and just take everything and pay no attention to the world that we live in. And that's so right. I could see where God would be like, you made your own mess. Live with
it.
That's right. That's absolutely right.
Well, but a benevolent God would intercede.
Not if he wanted us to just have to deal with our consequences.
Mike, don't hang up.
Come on, there are enough good people on this planet. I say we stand it. If you can find 10 good people, right? The story of a lot is it.
Listen, Mike, 10 good. Let me tell you something, Mike. There are people all over the world holding what they call warrior meditations, and what they do is they're trying to save the planet through meditation, through positive intent, and they happen all the time here in New York. There's a wonderful metaphysical teacher here named Stephen Popiatek. He's a very, very dear friend of mine, amazing at what he does. And he does meditations to try and save the world, to help, the universe, whatever, however you want to word it, to basically put positive energy into the world because there's so much negative. And there are people doing this all over the world now called warrior meditations. And, people believe that we could save this world. And you know what? I have to believe we can as well.
But it also takes our actions to do that.
Absolutely.
But thanks for calling, Mike. Happy Halloween.
Thank you. You too.
Happy Halloween, Mike.
Right. Bye-bye.
I just want to share, Mike had talked about the destruction of more than 50% of the population of the Earth. Well, listen, I reported earlier that CNN is reporting that the Kepler and the Hubble satellites were knocked out by something, and then an object, a fireball, was seen coming down over Staten Island, crashing into the South Beach area of Staten Island. And now I'm getting a report that another canister is crashing in the center of Queens. That's where I live, the center of Queens, and I'm actually seeing something that looks like a fireball out of my window, and I'm hearing there's a grinding sound. This thing is opening up. There's a machine coming out. It has 3 eyes on it, and it's shooting out rays of light. Ah!
I think we just lost Victor, but maybe he'll come back as spirit.
Victor, come back, Victor. Come back, Victor.
Oh wait, I can't make my voice that deep.
No. All right, do I have to now I'm going to have to channel one of my best friends. Oh my God, what's this world coming to?
And I'll throw this out while Victor's in the afterlife. Why do you think it's so hard for some people to accept the fact that there are non-corporeal life forms, whether it be ghosts, spirits, or even extraterrestrial beings that are non-corporeal, that don't have physical bodies? Why do you think it's so hard for people to wrap their mind around that idea?
Listen, I had to come back because Lisa in our chat room said no sex for Victor tonight, and I'll come back for that any day, anytime. So I'm here. I'm back.
Good, Victor. Answer Dr. Rita's question.
Okay. Well, that's because he's got that medication. It's all
That's right. That medication is dangerous, by the way, Dr. Rita. You can't take that medication and iron tablets at the same time because men who do that spin around and face north. But that's another story for another time.
We run like a G-rated show here.
There we go.
PG. All right, PG.
Well, we're supposed to as well. But Victor, we have another show, Dr. Rita, on Friday nights, and it's an adult topic show. And sometimes Victor forgets that this is a PG show and that tomorrow night is the X-rated show, so you have to forgive him. He's a little out of control sometimes.
Okay. Hey, Chris, you've made me cross the line. You know what I'm saying? I've crossed the line, but that's another story.
The line into the red room.
Dr. Rita, you were talking about the fact that people seem to have some type of issue in experiencing or acknowledging spirit.
Well, they're just skeptical. They just don't want to believe it. Even when they have experiences, they don't want to believe it.
Yeah.
I don't get that.
I think it comes from a basic fear of things. It's like people who are afraid of insects. They freak out when small insects, because they have no control. They have no control if they climb on them or they get near them. And I think the idea of something unseen that can affect someone in some way or somehow bring a message in some way might be a source of fear for a lot of people.
I think it is a source of fear. People are afraid of what they can't see. It's the bottom line. People say to me, aren't you afraid of the dead? I'm like, afraid of the dead? No, they're not going to hurt me. I talk to them,
I'm afraid of the living.
Exactly.
I'm afraid of those things that go bump in the night, but it's not the ghost. I mean, it might be the ghost bumping those things. Just turn the light on. I'm good.
I just feel that, people are scared of what they don't understand, and too many people are too lazy to do any research on what they don't understand, so that they live in a constant state of fear. When all they have to do is just do a little bit of research and find out, just little certain things about what you're scared of, and you know what, that could be the difference of you being scared and you not being scared anymore. I mean, it seems very logical to me.
Well, Rita and Chris, I have another Halloween factoid about trick-or-treating.
All right.
Trick-or-treating hasn't always been a part of Halloween celebrations. In fact, it was only celebrated in the United States for a relatively short time. Celebrating All Hallows Eve was a practice that came over to the United States with the first large wave of immigrants who came from Ireland, England, and Scotland. And in some parts of these countries, it was common for kids to go out guising on All Hallows Eve to beg for food, money, or other items. People who refused to give anything would sometimes find chalk drawings on their doors, or the next morning they'd find that they were the victims of other pranks. When immigrants came to the U.S., they brought their traditions with them on All Hallows Eve each year, and in some immigrant communities, it would be common to see small children, usually boys, with makeup or soot on their faces or wearing crude masks from bags, going around and begging at different houses. Trick-or-treating per se in the United States as we know it today didn't really start until after World War II. The 50s and the 60s were the decades when it became the important Halloween ritual of the day. It actually had a bit of a decline in the 70s and 80s because of the rise in urban type of neighborhoods where you had apartment houses, and the non-traditional households contributed to the major changes that shaped trick-or-treating at the end of the 90s. But people in neighborhoods today usually make it a practice of taking their kids around from house to house and making it safe, fun, and a nice activity for them to celebrate Halloween with.
You're chock full of information tonight, Victor.
That's right.
I'm also chock full of nuts, but that's another story.
That's a whole other story.
Medication again.
There you go.
We have 15 minutes left in this show, and I'm really enjoying it. I would love to get another caller. So if anybody is out there that would like to call in, the phone number is 888-919-2355. Give us a call with your paranormal or scary story, and we'd love to talk to you.
Or if you have a ghost question,
ghost question. Yeah, we like questions.
Or whatever. We kind of handle those pretty good, I think.
Oh yeah, it's right up our alley. I mean, if we can't answer the question on ghosts, we shouldn't be doing what we do.
So, Chris, I have a question specifically for you because I like to ask people that are mediums this because I seem to get a very consistent answer, and I'd like to hear your answer.
Okay.
But I have heard it said that, and this is from, and I'm going to say, quote unquote, famous mediums, that if I mention their name, everybody listening would know who they were, but I'm not going to mention their names. And, but that they can only communicate, not as a, when they're doing like a gallery or whatever, to people who have gone into the light. And as a medium, they are not able to connect with earthbound spirits. Do you have the same experience, or for you, is it different? Is it kind of on a different channel?
It's completely different. I speak with spirits that are in the light, and I speak with earthbound spirits all the time. I don't agree with that at all.
But are they on different channels? Do you understand what I mean by that?
Yeah, I do understand what you mean. And no, it's the same channel for me. For them, it's a different channel. And I'll tell you what I mean. And I actually told the story a few weeks ago on Second Sight. There's a place called the Shanley Hotel here in Napanoch, New York, and what happened was in the basement there was 2 levels. Okay, it was an odd basement. It was actually a 2-level basement. There were spirits on one level and there were spirits on the other level. Now I could communicate with both of them, but neither one of them knew that the other spirits were there. They were on different planes, I guess. Am I making sense to you? Am I answering your question? Okay. And now I had no problem speaking with both sets of these spirits, but they had no idea that each other was there. So they were on a different station. I was on the same station.
Okay. Hey, we have a caller. So, so caller, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Hi, who's this?
This is Jason. I'm Instant Karma from the other chat room. Hey, everybody.
Hi, everybody.
Hey, how you doing,
so,
Karma?
Jason, I just want to let you know, so we are down to about 7 minutes, so we need to keep this a little quick. But do you have a story, question? What's going on, Jason?
Actually, it's a kind of a question about a story. And basically, briefly, several years ago, it's not exactly, I wouldn't call it a ghost story. I'd say it's more of a shadow people story, and was wondering a little bit about those. But several years back, I was out in the backyard with my last dog. You know, I was just letting him run around, use the bathroom. And we were in the backyard, kind of here in the country. There's a street light across the street from us, though. But, it's otherwise pretty dark. And I'm sitting there, and then all of a sudden, I saw him, and my dog saw them, too, because I noticed him, lift his head up, and he tracked them. And he tracked them while I was. But, it was like there were these 2 shadowy figures. They were just kind of like a darker shadow, within the background of shadows that I could see. And they were just these 2, about average, human height, tall bipedal figures, just these shadows within the shadows. And they were walking side by side, like they were going somewhere with a purpose. And I noticed them. And what was weird is I looked at my dog and I looked at him, and he was over there. He was tracking them. And then he looked back at me like, dude, did you see that? And he went to sniff for a trail after him, but he couldn't find anything, and he was kind of confused by it too. And kind of wondering what those were. That's the whole shadow person thing. They didn't seem to interact with me whatsoever. I was just pretty much observing them. I don't know. My best guess I'd have to say that when the next dimension over, there's a sidewalk going through my backyard. Who knows?
What you want to answer that, Victor?
It's very possible. There's a lot of theories about alternate universes and universes side by side with us and dimensions side by side with us, and the fact that sometimes those dimensions can cross or those universes can bump together, and there can be an exchange of energy and information. So, quantum physics, quantum mechanics is starting to look into this stuff, and who knows, maybe we'll have an answer to that in a few years.
And, a lot of, I'm kind of sensitive to a few things, and, I felt some spirits and entities and other weird presences. But the weird thing about this was I didn't get any kind of, feeling, no empathy ping, no nothing off of them. It was just, I don't know, like I was watching a black and white movie being projected onto it or something like that. No presence or anything like that.
But what you might have been picking up was some kind of residual energy, and it just didn't have the depth and level of intensity that it might have had at some point earlier in time. I mean, there's a lot of factors that could go into it, from that emotional place.
Well, and then the other thing is, to just go on what you're saying, Dr. Rita, the level of energy a spirit can hold on to changes. Depending on what they're doing, they can show themselves as a shadow, they can show themselves as a full-body apparition, depending on how much energy they can muster, how much energy they can take from whatever's around them. And, that's just another factor to throw in there.
Yeah, and I don't think they were projecting any energy my way at all because, honestly, they seemed preoccupied. They were, walking somewhere with a purpose. And I like Rita's explanation of it. That could have been, some type of residual energy, or I'm watching like a playback of a clip that happened, long ago. But I don't know. I guess I'll never know what those guys were walking towards.
But Jason, you had the experience, and that's a wonderful thing because many people don't have the opportunity to have that type of experience, and any experience
and be
that
able
you have,
to own it, and be able to own it, because a lot of people have that experience and they go, "Oh, that was just weird," and they just ignore it.
Right.
If my dog wasn't there, if my dog wasn't there and he didn't see it too and look back at me like, "Dude, what was that?" I mean, I might have just written it off as some kind of visual trick or some game of light and shadow, but. Hey, at least it was verified by somebody.
There you go.
Well, great. Thank you for calling, and you have a happy Halloween.
All right, you too. Happy Halloween, everybody.
All right.
Happy Halloween.
Thank you,
All right,
Jason.
bye. Well, that was pretty cool.
Yeah, well, Jason actually has a show on UFO paranormal, and every other Friday night, and he, him and Heather do a great job on the show. He's a very good talk show host.
I've got a little bit of a story to share. Chris is aware of this story. And number one, I have to say nothing has ever frightened me. I've never been afraid of anything. I've had some very interesting experiences. I've had some things that have taken me by surprise, but nothing ever scared me. The closest thing to being, let's say, upset, not scared, but upset, there was a woman who had a very significant spiritual attachment here in Queens. And I had worked with her before Chris met her. And I was doing an EVP session in her apartment one night. And there were only myself, another person, and this woman there. And I set up my recorder in the living room, and we walked into her bedroom and other parts of the house. And so there was no one in the living room. And when I played back the recorder, number one, the first thing that it said, as we're walking into the other room, the voice said, "It's starting." And then a few moments later, it said, Fuhrman, which is my last name, and said it in a very negative manner. And to hear it starting and to hear other pieces of information were one thing, but to hear my name being enunciated by some type of spirit, that was a little bit off-putting, wouldn't you say?
Especially a last name, yeah. That excuse me, that could be freaky for sure.
Rita, have you ever had that for a spirit?
Thank God, no.
Yeah.
And I have this big rule, like my book, Dark Angels, An Insider's Guide to Ghost Spirits and Attached Entities, which now is available on Kindle. See, I thought I'd throw that little plug in there.
There you go.
When I was writing that book, I was in the process. Well, I had started writing the book, and then my ex-husband and I split up. And so I was in the house by myself, and I would sit in bed and I would just start, write down stories and whatever I was trying to, just kind of gathering notes to put in the book. And I looked up from the bed one night, and there were all these spooks down in my room. And I just said, no. And I put the book away because I have this rule that, they can't come in my house. They can be at your house and I'll come visit them at your house, or they could be at somebody else's house, but they're really not allowed in my house because they scare me and I don't like being scared.
Yep.
Nobody likes being scared.
At least if I go into your house, I'm going in there knowing that there is this possibility that there actually is going to be some kind of activity. And so, I have my guards up. But if it's in my house, it's just things are falling around, or there's weird noises, or the TV turns itself off,
Dr. Rita, do you ever get back up to New York?
I was just up there in June.
The next time you come, you have to let us know. What we would do is we'll take you out to dinner.
Absolutely.
And we can have a psychic night at my house or Victor's house or my girlfriend's house, whatever. And, we'll do a little seance and see who I can channel up for you. I would love to do that for you.
How fun.
That sounds
and
great.
You can videotape it. You can do whatever you want.
Okay, so, I haven't really shared this information on air, but I'm going to share it with you. So when my husband died, which was just a couple months ago.
I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm actually doing really good, and I talk to him every day and have long conversations with him every day. So, it's good that I do this kind of work, you know what I mean? Because I don't have this weirdness about it. Mm-hmm. But he passed over, and I would go into the garage and I'd try to get back in the house and the door would be locked, but no one ever locks the lock. And then I went out the front door and somebody locked the door, and no one ever locks, the bottom lock. Whoever locks the bottom lock? I don't, And that happened for a couple of days. And I was so glad that there were people in the house because they could let me back in. And I just would stop and go, quit it, Wayne, quit it. Hey, so I don't know how much time you guys need to leave, but my music is going to come up here in a second.
Okay,
so
we have 3 minutes. On our side, we have about 3 minutes.
Okay, so why don't we say goodnight to each other, and then I'll just go do my exit thing, and you guys can do your exit thing, and we'll hook up on the back end.
Rita, wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us tonight, and happy Halloween.
No, thank you so much for joining me, and happy Halloween.
I was waiting for that.
I can't tell you how much I enjoyed this tonight. It reminds me of how much I enjoyed you when you came on the show in June. This was a fantastic show, and I would love to do this again.
Well, when I saw that it was Halloween, Thursday was Halloween, I was like, oh my God, this is going to be so perfect.
Yeah, it really was. It worked out well for us. Thank you.
Good. Yay. All right, guys. I will talk to you later.
Have a great night.
Blessings,
all right.
Rita. Take care.
All right, bye. That's Christopher George and Victor Fuhrman from Second Sight New York Radio. So that's secondsightnyc.com. And next week we have one of my favorite scientists. We have Amit Goswami talking about the physics of the soul. And he's been on the show several times, and he will be back with us. And so until next week, I hope you all had a happy Halloween, ate lots of candies, and be blessed.
Join host Dr. Rita Louise each week at this time for Just Energy Radio.